discussing this time of peace that the Iroquois talk about, Hopewell certainly was that.
Huh.
I mean, that period from AD 1 to 400, and I have to emphasize that I'm going to talk about human remains that have been studied from the Hopo Mounds. All of that was done without consultation or consent of any indigenous people. But it has helped us learn so much, because in all of the human remains that have been examined from Hopewell, there are no examples of spear points in the ribs. There are no examples of crushed skulls. There are no examples of broken arms from fending off a blow. There is literally no evidence of violence during the Hopewell period that we have, unless there are some things that could possibly be interpreted as human sacrifice, but they're very rare, and the evidence marshaled for them is questionable, but it's certainly possible. But we have more evidence for human violent interactions before Hopewell, and certainly there are many more after Hopewell.
Okay.
So one of the things.
This is genuinely fascinating, Brad, because if I want to put my Mormon apologist hat on, I'm saying, boy, you've just described what I call the proto-millennium happening in the Book of Mormon during that period of time. And I think for a lot of people who are Heartlanders, they would glom onto a lot of what you said and say, that's what the Book of Mormon is describing, even within the time frame that you would say that would have happened. That to them, and then say, oh, you're saying before that there was violence and after that there was violence? That's what the Book of Mormon is saying. Again, I'm putting on my hat as a Mormon apologist. I mean, you're kind of describing this hundreds of years of peace that the Book of Mormon seems to have a bullseye on. That's interesting to me.
And pilgrims were coming, I think, from the literal ends of the world, bringing offerings of shell from the Gulf of Mexico, and obsidian from the Rocky Mountains, and copper from southern Canada. So I think these were huge pilgrimage centers. But what happens, I think, is that these small little communities start proliferating as the population goes up. And eventually, they end up competing for hunting land or maybe agricultural land. And as soon as any of that conflict starts between people saying, hey, that's our hunting territory, that's not yours, that this whole house of cards starts falling apart. And then people say, okay, we have to start coalescing in large villages, and you start getting organized warfare in the late woodland. They invent the bow and arrow, or whether they invent it or not, they start using it much more, which is better as an offensive military weapon than a spear thrower. They start living in larger villages with palisade walls around them, which suggests conflict. So it just seems to me that's what's happening. That warfare is a part of the puzzle that explains what made the Hopewell cooperative enterprise no longer viable.
The Book of Mormon is an ancient record of some of the Native Americans. If you would like to learn more, check out the link below.